there's just this idea of things being transformed with everything that's cooked, with the idea of ingredients moving from one thing to another. And there's not really a point at which an ingredient is just the ingredient and a point at which it's the dish. There's not a point at which something is. There's just not a fine line between those things. And I try to pull out that metaphor between this very personal story about the person who inspired her to start up a restaurant, to get into cooking in the first place. And so the poem is actually from her perspective. So I hope I did that perspective justice. But yeah, if you want me to perform that, I can do it. Oh, we put together a little book. So, no, it's important because this book it's 2 of my poems and 2 of her recipes, but it's also a number of illustrations. These illustrations are done by the person who started her with cooking and who this poem is about and who is no longer with us. So this is a whole lot of really heavy stuff kind of all together in one place. And then food you can cook, so you can eat something while you're cooking. So, yeah.
All right, so what's the best way? Should I introduce you? Are you just going to break into it? You're just gonna
No, I think everybody here knows who I am at this point. My name is Hughes. I do performance poetry. You start with a hole, just a few feet deep. Build a wooden pyre inside, and when it's burned itself to embers, place the body on top. Cover it up with a burial shroud of banana leaves, and then inter the entire thing under the earth. If you put in the proper preparation, the burial is just the first step. In Panama, this is how they taught us to cook the pig properly. And the next day, we grave robbed our breakfast. Broke bread and ate the flesh of resurrection, the thing that could have become putrid, instead burned beautiful. The word barbecue comes from the Caribbean term for burial, just as cannibal comes from a mispronunciation of Caribe, perpetuated by Christopher Columbus and his inability to wrap his tongue around a dish and words so deliciously foreign. As an apprentice in her kitchen classroom, Mary taught me this perpetual lesson, that certain things must undergo transformation to be appreciated in new ways. A poblano pepper, when dried, becomes an ancho. Plantain chopped and fried becomes tostone. Jalapeno smoked becomes a chipotle. Together every morning, we set about transforming these piles of ingredients into a new thing called feast, into the art gallery of plates for the line of patrons waiting to sate their taste for the beautiful. Just a few months after I had started working at her restaurant, she invited me to dine with her on tablecloth bedsheets. I filleted her flank with my fingernails, peeled zest from her skin, carved open her thighs, and partook of the feast. We spent a night of fine dining, devouring each other completely by bite and suck and swallow, and saved our hearts for last. Food is the best metaphor for sex, for what is lust but hunger for another's flesh. And sex is the best metaphor for death. For what is rest if not all of our efforts finally realized in one releasing breath? The cancer came callous cannibal. Uninvited guests come to dine on time. We weren't ready to serve yet. A ravenous devour, a meal that was still meant to be mine. It started with her mouth. Excess cells in the hard palate forced us to carve her open, to cut off her nose to spite her face, and then cook her under radiation. Death has jaws, but says nothing, only kisses and consumes. I knew it was over the day they had to stave off starvation with a feeding tube. Tilapia and garlic butter and rice were the only ways I could think of to say goodbye. The restaurant is mine now. Each morning, I turn on the burners and they sing a slow dirge for her. Each morning, the plates like her shoes sit empty again, asking me how I will fill them each morning. I start the pour, pull it from the earth, and question why they still come to me for something that is dead, and the answer comes from the ancho. Tostone and the Chipotle, and the answer comes from the soft verde eyes, the juicy habanero lips, and dripping wet mango, the salsa, and the answer comes from under the earth, just begging us to digest it, and the answer is that it is not the nature of things to end, but to change. And the answer is, if you put in the proper preparation, burying is only the first step.